Hey, folks, good evening and welcome to Families of Monsters Radio, where the veil between the known and the unknown is lifted one story at a time. I welcome you and our listeners, including first time chat participants. I hope you find tonight's subject and reports interesting. Now, in July of last year, 2024, a woman in Columbia, Maryland, took her dogs out for a routine late night walk, only to find herself locking eyes with an 8-foot tall white furred entity lurking at the edge of a power line field. It didn't growl, it didn't charge, she just watched. And when she retreated into her apartment and locked the door, the knob rattled seconds later. A silent message was delivered: "You're not alone." That same month, new reports surfaced from Alabama, West Virginia, Oregon, North Carolina, dozens of them, describing similar encounters with upright canine-like beings. Now, are we truly facing a rise in cryptid canine activity? Or are we just simply becoming more aware or more connected through the digital lens over curiosity and fear? In tonight's presentation, we'll explore the possibility that something fundamental is happening, but also ask the more complex questions. Are we witnessing a surge of actual phenomena or a modern myth evolving in real time? So let's begin by walking the timeline from historic Rougarou tales whispered in the Louisiana swamps to the snarling beast that shattered a kitchen door in Clarksville, Maryland, to a man in Oregon who swears a creature watched him release a mouse into the woods before vanishing into the trees. These accounts span generations and geography, but now they're being shared faster, louder, and more often than ever. So could social media, Reddit threads, YouTube videos, and even AI generator visuals be shaping our perception? Well, at the same time, there are real world shifts that can't be ignored. Wildlife habitats are shrinking. The post-pandemic boom in hiking, camping, and rural living has driven humans into areas once left alone. More people may be simply encountering what's always been there or misinterpreting what they want to believe is there. And let's not forget the psychological factors: heightened global anxiety, uncertainty, and our deep-rooted tendencies to and through mortify, these shadows in the dark. Still, we can't dismiss the sincerity of people coming forward. Whether it's a mistake, a trick of the light, or something we've yet classified, what matters is that witnesses are being shaken to the core, and that demands our attention. So tonight, we look at it all: the genuine reports, possibly the hoaxes, the social media influence, the science, the speculation, and the enduring mystery. So stay with me. And if you've seen something that you can't explain, I want to hear about it from you as well. But before I proceed, please consider supporting the channel by clicking the subscribe and like buttons and by sharing our content. Super chat and super thanks donations are appreciated. You can click the dollar icon located below the chat box. Now, if you'd like to help balance the cost of the Phantoms and Monsters rebuild, you can use the PayPal or Buy Me a Coffee links in the subscription. Your support is absolutely considered, and support is and consideration is much appreciated. And your comments are also welcome. Please let me and the moderators know which accounts you found interesting in the presentation, or share your suggestions for upcoming shows. I want to thank everyone associated with this channel. And now, if you're in the chat and have a question, please use all caps, and I'll try to get to each one of these after the presentation. And I do want to note that as far as the website build, I went in an entirely different direction. I had some issues with the developer, and I fired him, and I went ahead and hired somebody else just today. And we're putting this on the fast track, so I'm hopeful I'm going to get this website up quicker than what I expected. So we'll see what happens, but I'll keep everybody updated. So, cryptid canine search. Dogman sightings are spiking, but why now? Do these investigations reveal a deeper pattern? Now, alongside my colleague, Rissa Miller, we've compiled two of the most compelling and disturbing cryptid canine encounters we've investigated to date. Now, one took place in the rural edges of Clarksville, Maryland, and I've talked about it for about a year or so now, but I'm going a little more in depth with it. And the other, under a full moon in nearby Columbia, Maryland. Are these incidents related? Well, let's talk about the first incident, the Clarksville encounter. In early 2021, a veteran Baltimore Police Department detective working out of the Northern District had a night he'll never forget. Now retired and living alone in Howard County, Maryland, the officer had the habit of working late at his home office. But on this night, around 2 a.m., something outside interrupted his focus. He heard a deep, heavy thud like something massive hitting the ground right outside the kitchen. He stepped into the hallway alert, and the noise stopped, like whatever was out there knew it was being watched. Quietly and cautiously, he opened the kitchen door and came face to face with a towering figure on the patio. It was a 7-foot-tall creature covered in light gray hair with a long snout full of jagged teeth. Its yellow eyes locked onto his, and then it lunged, hissing. He slammed the door and rushed back to his office and drew his weapon. But it wasn't over. The creature broke in. It tore through the kitchen. Glass shattered, furniture scraped, heavy footfalls echoed as it moved, snorting and growling. When he peeked out to face it, the creature locked eyes again, but instead of attacking, it went silent, then bolted out the door. Later inspection revealed claw marks and damage throughout the kitchen and dining room. He showed me photos, but wouldn't allow them to be released. And though he hasn't seen the creature since, he's certain it still roams nearby. Now, this area is just steps away from the Middle Patuxent Environmental Area, a known corridor for unexplained activity, Bigfoot, cryptid canines, and more. So, is this related to something that happened just last summer, about 11 miles east of where this previous encounter happened? Well, fast forward to the summer solstice weekend, June 22nd, 2024. A woman named M, an insurance investigator, was gaming at home with her dogs when her dogs needed to go out. It was around 1:30 in the morning, a full strawberry moon shining above. She stepped outside behind her apartment at Tamer Meadow in Columbia, Maryland, near a power line field maintained by BG&E. At first, she thought she saw a deer, but then it stood up. It was something else. Towering at about 8 foot, covered in white or ashen gray fur, was with massive amber eyes. This creature made direct eye contact with her. Its long arms reached past its knees. Its ears twitched independently, and its tail moved like a cat's, coiled and calculating. Her dogs froze, one violently shaking. Despite her fear, Em stood tall, recalling how hikers handle mountain lions. She projected her intent: protect her dogs, don't run, don't show weakness. She backed slowly into her apartment, locked the door, and collapsed with her dogs. Moments later, the doorknob rattled. But the creature didn't force entry. It didn't vocalize. It simply left. Now, she's never been the same since, and her younger dog avoids going outside. She installed floodlights. The apartments install floodlights. She avoids being outdoors after dark, and is still she still compulsively checks her windows. What's more, this field connects to the Patapsco Valley State Park, home to decades of sightings of a creature known as the Patapsco howler, a large, often bipedal wolf-like beast described with eerie intelligence. Now, her encounter may be the most detailed and emotionally charged report of the howler to date. So we look at the patterns and possibilities here. Now, when we look at the cases side by side, the Clarksville and Columbia case, the patterns do emerge clearly. Both happened between 1:30 and 2 o'clock a.m. Both featured 8 to 9 foot bipedal canines with lighter white fur. Both creatures showed a startling degree of sentience, calculating and observant. One was aggressive and destructive. The other held back, seemingly reading the witness. One left behind physical damage, the other psychological scars. And both occurred near major park corridors, the Middle Patuxent Environmental Area and the Patapsco Valley State Park. These trails, forest, and utility easements may serve as a hidden migration route for something not yet acknowledged by science. Now, these encounters are not isolated. They represent a growing pattern we've seen across central Maryland, Piedmont, and beyond. Intelligent, upright canines appearing where wilderness meets suburbia. Are these the guardians of the land, as some indigenous traditions suggest? Or are they something far older, something watching, waiting, assessing us? For now, we just don't know. But if you live in these areas, keep your eyes open after midnight and maybe think twice before stepping outside alone. Now, we had another incident that occurred on the night of Friday, June 6th, 2025, and this was forwarded to me by Rissa. And she came up with this report as a result of it. It was a humid night on Friday, June 6th, 2025, just a month ago. A real quiet family farm north of Mount Joy, Pennsylvania, was broken by the chilling, unforgettable event. Now, this is in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. The witness, whom we'll call C, had joined relatives and her young children for an overnight stay at a longtime family property at Raffo Township. Though the farm had downsized over the years, the old barn and paddock still stood. The air was thick, overcast, almost like a storm might be rolling in. The moon, though still waxing gibbous, gave little light through the haze. Now, around 10 p.m., C stepped outside after the goats and sheep, which are mostly pets, began to panic. Concerned that a coyote or wild dog had approached, she grabs the large maglite flashlight kept near the back door. But as she neared the animals, the noise stopped. All was still, unnaturally still. That's when a wave of nausea hit her, accompanied by a creepy dread. Standing just beyond the fence line opposite the barn was a tall, dark figure. In the overlapping light of the porch, barn bulb, and flashlight beam, she froze. It wasn't a man. It couldn't be. The silhouette was far too large. An upright, fur-covered creature, 7 to 8 foot tall, with pointed ears, a long snout, and amber eyes that locked with hers. It didn't flinch under the light. It didn't flee. It regarded her, almost curiously and intelligently. She remembers stories told by older family members, tales of the Hexenwolf, a German witch wolf whispered about in the old Pennsylvania Dutch lore. Though skeptical of such things, her instincts screamed this was no ordinary animal. The creature made no sound, not even as it turned and walked away, crossing a gravel driveway in complete silence. That detail would stay with her. No crunching, no shuffling. It moved gracefully, fluidly, as if it wasn't entirely grounded in this world. And by the time she recovered enough to move, it was gone. She ran inside, waking her uncle, who came outside armed. Together, they secured the animals and checked the area, but the entity had vanished, leaving no tracks, not even in the damp ground. Now, that night, she didn't sleep. She stood watch at the window, haunted by what she had seen. The next day brought rain and more questions, but no answers, no evidence, no explanation, just an unshakable fear. She didn't tell her children, fearing the nightmares it might bring, but she couldn't stop herself. Insomnia, dread, and paranoia followed. She feared it might find her again. Importantly, C is not a cryptid follower, nor someone drawn to the paranormal lore. She's a medical professional grounded in science, not superstition, and yet she knows what she saw. Now, this case bears hallmarks consistent with other upright canine encounters in Pennsylvania, particularly the black fur, pointed ears, yellow amber eyes, and eerie intelligence that have been reported. The detail of silent movement on gravel is chilling, but recurring theme in high strangeness areas. The mention of the Hexenwolf, with its roots in Pennsylvania Dutch lore, adds more layer. Could this be a folkloric archetype or returning in modern form, a residual entity from ancestral belief systems, or something far stranger, interdimensional, intelligent, and watching? The witness hopes that by sharing her stories, others who've remained silent might come forward too, because the forest of Pennsylvania may still hold secrets passed down from centuries of whispered stories, and some of them, it seems, still walk upright under the cover of night. So I've got another one here from a witness who states to me, "Hello, I want to report disturbing activity around my residence over the past 2 weeks. I hope you can provide some insight into what we're dealing with. I live in a rural area of southeastern Oklahoma, a few miles from Tallahassee. I've lived here for all my 48 years, and I've never experienced anything strange in this area before. On June 1st at about 10:30 p.m., I was on my back porch reading the newspaper. My husband was getting ready to leave for work. My porch faces a large wooded area about 800 feet or so from the lake. I have a small yard, and the edge of the woods is about 50 feet from the house. My husband walked out the back door, said goodbye, and walked to his truck. As soon as he pulled away, I heard a loud, shrill sound coming from the direction of the lake. It reminded me of a pig squealing, but it was much more audible and scarier. I didn't get up from my chair as I looked towards the woods. Now, after a few minutes, I heard something heavy walking through the woods. It was something or someone on 2 legs. It was so dark that I couldn't even see anything. Suddenly, 3 deer burst out of the woods and ran along the house. I thought they caused the noise, so I got up and walked into the house. Most nights after I come home from work around 8:30 p.m., I eat dinner and then go out on the porch to read the newspaper. Now, ever since that first night, I've heard the same shrill sound on 4 other occasions. My husband sat with me a few times and he was surprised by the noise. He's been a hunter all his adult life, but he had no idea what made those sounds. So the next Tuesday night, I was sitting on the porch talking to my daughter on the phone. My husband was working that night. It was around 10:45 p.m. I had a strange feeling most of the evening and kept my gaze focused towards the woods. I was about ready to get up and walk into the house after ending the call, but then I noticed a pair of bright yellow eyes looking at me from the woods. It was only a few feet into the brush, and the eyes were at least 7 feet from the ground. I ran into the kitchen, quickly closed doors, and locked it. I turned off the lights inside, but the porch light was still on, and the edge of the woods was slightly illuminated. Now, as I peeked out the window above the sink, I noticed a tall, huge, dark figure standing in the back of the yard. The eyes still shone brightly and were looking in my direction. As I continued to watch, my eyes adjusted to the low light, and I then noticed the long, thick arms with fingers and long nails. I recognized the long snout and the long, pointed ears. Then suddenly it turned and ran into the woods. It was gone. I was trembling because I had no idea what I had just seen. I called my daughter back and told her, my son-in-law, and she immediately came over and spent the night. He brought his rifle with him. The next morning, I told my husband what I had seen. He's part Osage Indian and believes in animal spirits, but was confused by this thing I described. He told me that it might be a trickster spirit, and if we ignore it, it won't bother us. I'm not so sure I believe that. This didn't look like a spirit and resembled a huge dark coyote walking on 2 legs. Have you heard of anything like this? Please contact me. I'd like to ask you a few questions. Well, I did call the witness and tried to answer her questions. She has not been able to see tracks or any other evidence. She heard the shrill sound 2 nights ago before I contacted her before she went to bed. And her husband contacted the authorities, but she said that that he was just making inquiries, wanting to show if there had been any other reports. It seems they refused to give out any information. Now, her neighbors have not noticed anything unusual, but she told me that they were elderly and rarely went outside. I asked her to keep me informed of further incidents, so we'll see what comes up. So this next witness states, hello, Lon. I came across your site after searching for a creature I saw in the spring of 2016 in southeast Louisiana near Franklinton. My son, 12 years old at the time, and I were traveling on back highways at about 10 p.m. We started going around this curve to the right, and another car was coming in the opposite direction, so I dimmed my headlights. That's when I saw it. This thing was about 8 foot tall, standing on the right side of the road. It was looking at the other car, and as it passed, it turned to look in our direction, crouched down into a sprinter stance. Its hair, fur color were dirty white, which covered most of the body. It was human-like in the upper torso. I'm not sure about the bottom half. The head was wolf-like and large, with dirty white mane that was thick and running down its back. The encounter only lasted about 10 seconds. I only focused on the top. Its waist was relatively thin with defined human-like musculature. It had its ears back like a cat. Its eyes were bright yellow. Its mouth was wide open and full of sharp teeth and long canines. My son claims it had inverted knees like a dog. I referred to it as a were-dog. The fur color and other attributes matched the descriptions of the rougarou, which I was familiar with from the tales told me by my grandfather. but we saw it less than 10 miles as the crow flies from our house, and this is a bit disconcerting. There was a sighting of a similar upright creature a few years ago, about 3 miles from where we had our encounter. Now, this is very description is very close to what we get from Rougarou sightings, which I've had several coming out of Louisiana over the years. So maybe there is something to the legend. So, a man in North Alabama has been seeing a variety of strange creatures recently. An orange eyed, wolf like being was spotted watching him through a window. So, I was contacted by the witness who was asking for additional information. He asked me, I've always had weird experiences, but it's ghosts or strange animals. I just always seem to, it just always seems to follow my family and me. We recently moved into an old farmhouse just off the main road near Guntersville, Alabama. The house has 88 acres of land, and only 4 people, including us, live on or near the land. When we first moved in, nothing abnormal happened. It was just a small house that seemed like a new start for all of us. Now, after a month of living there, we started hearing strange noises outside at night, but nothing too serious. One night, we decided to have a fire and drink some beer. Well, a few other guys who were there that night decided to do some night fishing. Now, while fishing in a pond that was maybe a mile into the woods, we started hearing screaming. We just think that it was one of the girls back at the house, so we headed back, and on our way back, we started noticing that there were no more sounds. No sounds of nature, no birds, no crickets, nothing. So we stopped to listen. And as we do this, we hear the sounds of chains rushing towards us. As he gets maybe 15 foot away, I point a gun at where the sound was coming from and fire a shot into the ground a couple of inches from it. After a minute passes, the chain sound rushed toward the house. Nothing happened after that until we all went inside and started going to bed. We all hear a female scream again, but behind it is a deep, distorted laugh. Now, after that, nothing happened. But 3 weeks later, my dad and I were fishing out at the impound late in the afternoon. As it inches closer to dusk, we noticed 3 pale white animals on the opposite side of the pond. But as soon as we see the animals, they run. Instead of running on all fours, they jump up on their hind legs and leap 8 foot into a tree, then hop from the tree to tree. As we see this, we decide to head back home, but on the way back, we hear the tree start rustling, and it keeps getting closer and closer until we get to the house and lock the doors. I decided to set up cameras in the woods and around the house. At first, I don't get anything, just deer, coyote. But one night, the camera close to the house is moved for an hour and then moved back. Now, nothing came of that until one night recently. After a long day of working, I decided to play a video game with a few friends. At about 11 p.m., I heard 2 taps, but I ignored them, thinking they were coming from the game. It continued until 2 a.m. Periodically, every 5 minutes, 2 consecutive taps would happen. I finally took my headphones off and heard it at the window. When I looked, I saw orange eyes 7 feet off the ground. After 2 minutes of staring at each other, it moved closer to the window and smiled at me with blood-stained daggers for teeth. Its face looked like a pale wolf-like face with some decay around the side of its head and neck. After doing this, it backs away, then leaves. Now, every night, something happens. Like tonight, as I'm writing this, it rushed onto the porch and clawed the door. As it's doing this, it's bellowing out a laugh that almost sounds like a deranged madman crossed with a hyena. Now, at this point, I'm not sure what to think. Are we being hunted? Now, that's a fascinating account. I don't know what they ran into. The description of the creature at the window is interesting. I've received a variety of harrowing encounters from cryptid wolves and upright canines for the past 5 or so years around the Birmingham, North Alabama area. and we do have a team down there, have been looking into this during that period of time. So I have shared a few of the some of the evidence and some of the audio and video evidence with the team, but so far I just haven't released anything. But it's interesting. I don't know what's really going on. Some of the investigators have had encounters with these creatures before, but we're trying to figure out what has been going on around that South Birmingham area. Now, a West Virginia woman states that she had encountered two werewolves near her property along West Virginia 5 and the Little Kanawha River. It's a very harrowing incident. So she states, one night in the summer of 2022, I was out along the road that goes past my house. We're in a pretty rural area here along West Virginia 5, which parallels the Little Kanawha River from Elizabeth to Grantsville. But the animals here are always the same. Until the late 1990s, the state DNR let coyotes loose, and in the early 1980s, wild turkey. Now they're releasing wild elk. Yet there are no sightings of these creatures. I have heard black panthers and even seen two dead kittens. At my friend's house, her dad had chased and treed the kittens, but the mother got away. To this day, West Virginia DNR refuses to state that black panthers exist in West Virginia. That night, I saw something I never thought I'd see. Two giant wolves that were bigger than anything I had seen before. I know people who own wolves, and I have been around them. When they left on vacation, I even fed their pet wolves, so I know how big they can get. But these were no regular wolves. These are twice my size, and they gave this eerie feeling. They walked off the hillside and came out of the foggy mist. Their eyes had this glow of yellow even before I turned my phone's flashlight on them. Yes, I had my phone in hand. Why no pictures? Because I was scared stiff. I was just able to look and see these two wolves, with one being smaller than the other. Both were very skinny, hippie, or one could say bony. Gray with black color markings around its eyes and ears, brown down its back, and a gray bushy tail. Tail as long as my leg. The heads were way bigger than my own. Glowing yellow eyes looking right at me and slowly walking past me. Both were moving together and moving their heads when needed to keep me in view. Then they crossed the road and disappeared into the riverbank. Across the river on the hillside were coyotes barking and yapping. That was until those two wolves crossed the river to their side. Dead quiet then. No noise at all, no bugs, no birds, no coyotes. When my heart started again, I ran as fast as my legs could carry me. No wolves here in West Virginia, huh? Not here. That would have been bought here by pets. These two were no pets. I think the smallest, the one closest to me, was a female. I also feel she protected me from the male, the biggest one. She nudged him to go on, and I thank her for that. He would have killed me easily. They both could have bit my throat. It's not too often I venture out further than my yard nowadays. This property has many supernatural events happening here, but that night I truthfully feel we had a werewolf and its mate. I know what I saw, and it scared me so bad that I had become afraid of the dark, even on my property that I grew up on. It has changed me in ways I can't explain. I have become more nature-minded. I worship nature and the power she holds. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't be here today. I know these creatures exist, and I give them a wide path of travel, always respected and mindful of their presence. Now, this next account, and I want to thank those who have been contributing. I see Alexis. I know some other ones have as well, and I'll try to get to them and mention them later. Hi, I was born and raised in North New Jersey. My boyfriend and close friends love to explore mysterious locations throughout the state. One day I found an exciting area. It's located in Trenton, New Jersey. It was an abandoned child orphanage and it also used to operate as an insane asylum. It was late at night, maybe after 10 p.m., and we were following the GPS to the location, hoping not to run into police or have to deal with being run off. We wanted to get inside the buildings. It was known when it was open as the Trenton Psychiatric Hospital. As we drove past the side of the actual orphanage, my mind was not on finding cryptids or any creature, but rather on assessing the security. Suddenly, out of the absolute nowhere, I saw this dark, blacker than black, what I would only describe as a canine shaped body. But when I saw it, the thing was in the middle of jumping out of a view next to the side of the road. All I was able to see entirely was the lower half of this thing, from mid torso to the tail. As it leaped out of the sight, it scared the crap out of me. What stuck out in my mind was the tail. This thing had a tail like a fox's tail, but it was bushy and large. But New Jersey doesn't have foxes. Well, I've later learned that they have, but certainly not black foxes. This animal was more massive than a large dog and much larger than a coyote. Like I said, I was not out that evening with this in mind. I was out on a ghost hunt. I turned to my boyfriend who was driving and asked if he had seen what I saw. He did not, which makes sense because the thing was on the side of the road and it was dark. I never saw the face or the upper half. It leaped from the side of the road into the brush next to the building. It was on all fours, but New Jersey doesn't have wolves or anything that fits that description. Now, I Googled all the native animals in New Jersey, and nothing was like that I saw. If I witnessed this thing in another more rural state, I would have to keep an open mind, but New Jersey doesn't have native animals that have that type of description. I have never seen a Dogman or even a Bigfoot, but I have no doubt they exist. But I sometimes wonder if that's what I saw, some kind of Dogman or cryptid or canine creature. I know I wasn't seeing things. It was blacker than the blackness of the night. It scared the bejesus out of me. Well, I have had several cryptid canine reports in the Pine Barrens area over the years. Now, some people say, "Well, of course, it's the Jersey Devil or something else." I don't know what it is, but there have been some pretty interesting sightings of something that's described as a cryptid canine. In fact, this was up around Trenton and closer to the river, closer to the Delaware River and further north is interesting. But we have had accounts of these creatures being in abandoned areas before, so who knows? Now, a Western North Carolina resident contacted me concerning an encounter that they had with an unknown canine creature, and after researching the encounter, the witness believes that it was a Dogman. So this is what the witness tells me. I have read several of your reports from Western North Carolina and thought that I would contact you. I had an encounter last summer while on break at work during a slow part of the night. I live and work in Mitchell County, which is in Western North Carolina. This is a county that you have written about since you have family from there, and you're aware of the varied wildlife. I would take a short drive to a park near my workplace that had a lot of wildlife. I like to watch the occasional raccoon or fox breaking the woodline. The park backs up into a rather large creek, and the area is devoid of artificial light as the darkness of the woods does not spook me or make me jumpy. I was raised in the mountains, and I enjoyed the solitude. On this night, there were no normal night sounds such as crickets or frogs. I also found it strange that all the wildlife seemed to be gone from the area. This bothered me a bit. I decided to leave some dog food on the edge of the woodline, hoping to entice a peculiar family of raccoons out so I could see what they were okay and see if they were still there. I didn't see a gray fox that would hang around that area. This fox would come out within a few feet of me, meander around, and retreat back into the woods. Now, after walking near the woods with the food, I heard a deep growl come from the edge of the woods. I had never listened to the animal growl with such intensity or so profoundly. I could feel the vibration of a growl hitting my face and inside my chest. I knew it wasn't a bear. Those sounds I'm familiar with. I dumped the food in the ground with one hard drop, hoping that whatever was in the woods would just take off. I backed away with my head down until I reached my truck. My instincts told me to drive away, so I did. But I decided to go back about an hour later. I was now curious as to what this creature was. I parked in the same place and this time walked to the back of the truck to grab a smoke. While standing there, I observed a dark mass come across the road and disappear into the overgrown open field with wild blackberry bushes and grass. I do have a sharp eye and I was able to discern some details. I can only describe this creature as a hybrid canine. It was on all fours, but it did not appear natural. It moved very quickly with fluid motions. The gait was weird as well, like the front legs were pulling its body forward. It almost had a human-like movement to it, as if it could stand on two legs if needed. The long back was hunched and the snout was long, but it fit its body. What struck me most were its ears, which were large and folded back. The legs almost had muscle mass. My background working with dogs told me that this was something very unusual. I just know that it was there one minute and gone the next. Now, when daylight came, I drove back to the location and looked for tracks, but listened to my gut and did not enter. For several months, I didn't tell anyone about it. I started searching the internet for what I had seen. I wondered if it had been a hybrid that had escaped. I found several online sites, but none seemed to come close to what I had seen. Then I came across a picture of a Dogman. I later spoke with a few of my coworkers. Of course, they told me that it was a bear or a large domestic dog, but a few of them did acknowledge that the wildlife in the area had been disappearing for a while. I don't speak about it because of ridicule, but I do know what I saw and heard and how many instincts reacted to it. So, folks, that's the last account. If you have any questions, please put them up there and let me know, and we'll see what we can come up with. Put them in all. Put all your questions in caps too. Make it easier to find. Real truth. I've read a few stories on Fans of Monsters about mermaids through the years. What's your view on them? Oh, geez. I don't know what to think about the mermaids. I've heard a lot of different stories. I hear about ocean mermaids, ocean female humanoids with tails, and then water sprites along rivers in Africa and other rural locations. I even heard of stories in New Mexico near some of the Bigfoot areas on the San Juan River about humanoids that seem to hang around the rocks. I don't know what to think about it. Honestly, I've heard a bunch of different stories. I've heard the legends. I don't know what to make of it. Dagnammit, you hear of stories of Dogman being inside your house without any windows or doors being broken. Is Dogman supernatural? It very well could be. I believe most cryptids are supernatural or have supernatural aspects to them. And, being corporeal and also being non-corporeal. I mean, flesh and blood and non-flesh and blood. I think for the most part, they do have the abilities to move in and out of different worlds or different levels. I think of that with Bigfoot, Mothman, and other cryptids, as well as Dogman. I've had several accounts where people had been in the woods or had been walking their dogs or such, and something would suddenly manifest itself out of nowhere. Yeah, they could be supernatural. I believe that could be very well true. Audacious Amber. When were the Maryland encounters, please and thank you? Oh, the one was in the summer of 2021. And the other, which was the Clarksville encounter, and the other one was just last summer in June, 2024. But this is something that we've been having. I mean, Maryland in particular, the DeWayo sightings or Hexen Wolf or whatever you want to call them. I mean, they've been happening throughout the state for years, particularly um, in the western counties, but mostly kind of between the Piedmont and the mountains itself, Frederick County, Washington County, Howard County now, areas that the Patapsco Valley State Park is located in, which is Carroll County, Baltimore, and Howard County. So yeah, these creatures have been seen and reported over the years. Alistair B. Lon, do you have any encounters that are on video you can post or too unbelievable? I've had supposed encounters that I've seen videos of. I don't know. AI is so good now. It's hard to really distinguish that. Now, if you're talking about canids or cryptid or cryptid canines, it's hard to tell. Some of them look too good to be true. There was one picture or a photograph of one in Carroll County years and years ago. Middletown, Maryland, which is in Carroll County. No, that's Frederick County. So yeah, I've seen that. There have been others, but it's hard to tell. It really is. Trying to look at the name here. Osvoid Dog. Did you see that interview of the witness of a Dogman in North Argentina? Any thoughts? There have been several in Argentina. I mean, there have been a lot of sightings, and I don't know which one you're talking. I think you're talking about the one that was on the farm. That video, and there was a video or picture or something. I don't know what it was. It did look canid, but who knows? I'm not sure what it was. But I know what you're talking about. We've had several reports of these cryptid canines in Brazil and in Argentina over the years. And they have been showing up more and more recently. So I don't know. Paranormalism Net. Have other cryptids been reporting the areas of Dogman sightings? Rarely. I can't even recall any, to be honest with you. There have been sightings of maybe Bigfoot and cryptid canines in the same area, but at different times. But as far as possibly being related, not really. We did have a case we were looking into in Cecil County, Maryland, around Port Tobacco, and possible Dogman activity, but there was UFOs as well as Bigfoot reported in an area as well. It was a farm area at a horse ranch. I haven't heard anything out of there since. We did get a video of a UFO, quite an extensive video of a UFO around there as well. But no, we don't really have much association with other cryptids. Can Squatch. Why canines? Is there a human canine connection? Any reports of feline cryptids? Yeah, we occasionally get a feline cryptid sighting, especially down in Florida. We've had a few down there. But I don't know. This whole cryptid canine phenomena, we probably have more questions about that than anything else that we've talked about. I mean, even Bigfoot or even Mothman. I mean, it's something that traditionally has happened over many years, even into the last century. especially here in Pennsylvania and in Maryland. But we just don't know a whole lot about it. Are these some type of thought form manifestations because of the lore involved? Many of the witnesses early on were people from the old country, especially Pennsylvania Dutch, are people who were born in Central Europe and migrated over to the United States, and of course had heard the stories of the Hexenwolf and the werewolves and all of that. Did they actually see one here? I don't know. But some of the descriptions are pretty harrowing, so maybe they did. But they continue to this day. Monica Davies, do you think Dogman are related to the Nephilim? I've heard that comparison with Bigfoot. I don't know if there is a connection. I honestly, I don't necessarily attribute anything to Nephilim, since that's something we don't even know even existed. I mean, it comes out of the Bible, but did it actually exist? I don't know. And I mean, I'm going to tell you I don't know, because I don't know. All I can do is kind of give you my estimation of what it is and what others have told me and what I have researched over the years. But I don't know if there's any connection at all. Dagnammit, do you think that Dogman does not want to hurt you? It just wants to scare you? Yeah, I think that may be something to that. Why? It's unknown. But they do kind of keep their ground. They do stand their ground. They very rarely attack. In these two instances in Maryland, where the one busted into the house and the other one was rattling on the doorknob, that's rare. That is very rare. And in fact, those two instances are probably the only two like that I've ever received. So maybe it's the same creature. Maybe it's something attributed to certain races of these creatures, or what you ever want to call. But I don't know. Jean Lujan, have you heard of any of the flying creatures in the area of Enid, Oklahoma? I'd have to look. I can't recall anything in Oklahoma as far as being a winged cryptid. I'm sure there have been sightings somewhere down the line, but that's something I had to look back into the archives. Leecham the spicy lizard. Do you think Dogman could be an alt branch of Sasquatch in some way? What's the strangest place you heard of canine cryptids being seen at? I guess it's a possibility it could be related. I doubt it, but I guess it could be. They do try to stay away from each other from some of the evidence that we've received over the years. I don't know. I that's hard to answer. What was the second part of that question again? Can you put it back up, Kevin? What's the strangest place you heard of cryptid canines being seen at? Well, any urban area would be strange to me. I mean, we have had sightings of them reported to us of being in abandoned locations, but we've also had abandoned locations that have been inhabited by supposed Bigfoot as well, and wing cryptids, wing humanoids. So honestly, nothing surprises me anymore. Alexis Chaston, what paranormal entity have you followed frightens people most? Well, I think the cryptid canines are probably the most frightening. They're just, I guess, the look and the unpredictability about them is the biggest part of it. But honestly, anything that you see or have an encounter with that you don't know what it is and always carries some fear factor to it. Can Squatch Andy reports a Dogman habitation. Um, you might want to talk to or check in with Carter Bouchard. He has some clients of his, I think in Kansas, who had some habituation with some possible cryptid. I think I reported his as well. So I don't know, but yeah, Carter would have that. You may want to write him. He's on Facebook. He's on the team as well. So, but I know he did mention it to me, and he did send me a report a while back. Jose Sanchez, have Dogman ever been seen in Russia, especially in snowy environments? I don't know. Usually what we get out of Russia or in Central Europe or Northern Europe, Central Asia and Northern Asia are Bigfoot-like sightings, Yeti or Urine or the other creatures. Cryptid canines, not so much. Not so much. Jean Lujan, what flying creature has hooves on his feet? Thank you for your time. Supposedly, the Jersey Devil has hooves and is winged. There have been sightings of unknown creatures that possibly had wings and hooves as well. We had something that showed up outside of York, Pennsylvania, about a dozen years ago. Got a partial camera shot of it, of a trail camera of the hooves and possibly some type of wing structure, but that would be all that I know of. Audacious Amber. I've heard many times on other channels of them trying to rattle handles and get in, quite common. Are you talking about cryptid canines? Maybe they did. I don't know. Those only the ones I got are the only two that I have seen. Now, yeah, of course, people talk about them trying to get into doorways and rattle handles. I've heard that with Bigfoot as well and other creatures. So, but even a dog can kind of get up on his hind legs and kind of rattle a door handle or a doorknob as well. So. James Michael. Do Bigfoot usually have green eye shine like Dogman have amber? Is there anything associated to certain colors? Green eye shine, I don't normally run across green eye shine with any cryptids. We had a couple as far as the winged humanoids. Most of the time, the dog, the Bigfoot are kind of an amber color, sometimes even red. Audacious Amber, did you hear of the Baltimore City encounter at an apartment complex? I think I did not. If you can give me a reference to it, I'll look into it. Okay, folks. Well, that's going to be it for tonight. So I'm going to thank each and all for watching and chatting. If you did donate, I appreciate it. I couldn't get into the chat and see all what was donated, but your support is what makes all this possible. And I do appreciate it. And please like and subscribe and share. And I also want to thank those folks who have made donations for the website as well. Very appreciative. These things aren't cheap, but when things go wrong and they pop up, you got to take care of it. So now, if you have a sighting or encounter report that you'd like to be considered for the report, personal report show here at Fams Monsters Radio or on Fams Monsters blog, feel free to email it to me at lonstrickler@famsandmonsters.com. So until we meet again, stay healthy and safe. Have a great weekend and good night.